Hi everybody, it's TBR time. Yes, it's getting full. I do need to find a bigger tub. So that means I have finished reading Charlotte Gray by Sebastian Faulks. This tells the story of a young woman named Charlotte Gray who moves to London to get a job working with a doctor. However, she's not really cut out for receptionist work, but she does speak fluent French and passable Italian. So she signs on with the services to become a translator. And once there, she meets a man named Peter Gregory, who's in the RAF. She is obviously worried about him flying because they do fall in love, but they don't tell each other how they feel. So he goes missing in action. He's supposed to end up in France doing some sort of secret work, picking somebody up, I believe. But it doesn't, he crashes. So she is then offered the opportunity to parachute into France to speak French for a man who's not very good at French, but they need him to deliver some messages. So she'll go with him to help him deliver the message, make sure he's not discovered as being British. And then they're supposed to separate and she's supposed to come back to England. However, she decides to go out there and try and find Peter, who she's in love with. And she ends up in this small town that is in the Free Zone, which was a small area of France up until around 1943. She meets a guy named Julien Levade and his father. She moves in with the father in the house and becomes a sort of housekeeper for him under her assumed name of Dominique. And Julien himself is his father is Jewish. He himself could be classed as not Jewish because to be classed Jewish, they had to have 3 out of 4 grandparents being Jewish or something like that anyway, or not all of his grandparents were, so he could get away with being not classed as Jewish for some reason, which wouldn't make much difference the way that they were operating in this book. He saves 2 young boys. The 2 young boys' parents are Jewish. The parents are taken away while the boys, one is hidden in the cellar and the other one is out running an errand. And he takes these 2 boys to live with this woman in the town. However, the town is soon occupied in 1943 by the Germans and it is no longer safe. So Charlotte gets them out and takes them to a farm for safekeeping, but they are discovered there and they are transported to the deportation camps and then on to a concentration camp, which we all know what happened there to the Jewish. The same happens to his father. The kids actually end up in the same camp as his father. His father dies, but he's not killed by the Nazis. He actually dies of pneumonia because there's no medicine for him and no care. So he's not actually transported further on to the proper concentration camps in Poland. Charlotte eventually ends up back in London, as does Peter, and they meet up, and that's the end of the story. People have said with Charlotte they don't like her as a character, especially at the beginning, because she's quite into herself. It's all about her. But then that's what young people are like when they're young. This is her growing up story. She is growing from a very young woman who has been sheltered most of her life, very well-to-do parents, father's a psychiatrist. She was brought up partly in France, that's why she speaks fluent French, and loves the country so much. But she is very self-centered at the beginning. It's Peter that starts to change her. Her love for him makes her grow as a person. She goes to France to find him, but once she's there, she realises she can do more good staying. That's why she stays instead of going back to Britain, and starts doing selfless acts like taking the children, trying to help them. She also makes mistakes, as everybody does, but it really is the story of how she grows into this woman who knows that she can't stand by and let what is happening. She has to try and do something, however small, however little, makes a difference. And this book really, really does bring home how badly the Jewish people were treated. In their own country in some cases. These are French Jews. And they were deported again from their own country, as were the German Jews. It breaks my heart that anybody could be treated the way the Jewish were treated during the war, and the Romani, the Gypsies, the infirm, the disabled. it's something that must never happen again. We must keep writing and reading about these stories, fiction or non-fiction, because it must not be allowed to happen again. And it worries me that it might be starting somewhere else, not in Germany. That's why German people learn their history very, very, very much so, more so than anywhere else in the world. We do a fair bit in the UK because obviously we were bombed by them and we bombed them. And with the general soldier population, not the officers, not the bigwigs, not the Stasi, not the SS, the general soldiers were just doing what they were told. They were boys like our boys. So many of them died, and for what? Ours died to give us freedom. Theirs died for some ideology from a nutcase. Anyway, enough about that. That's what I thought. I actually loved this book. It made me cry at the end. I was really happy that Charlotte got back with Peter. I was afraid he was going to die. He did not. So, what is going to be next? So here we go. I've actually put the tripod up so I can do this. So you can see that I am not really looking. I've just grabbed one. It's yellow. I think it was yellow last time. No idea what it is. Let me see. The Murder After the Night Before. Let me see if I can... Fortunately, this one was out of breath. Very easy to find. So, something bad had happened last night. I've woken up with a hangover from hell, a stranger in my bed, and I've gone viral for the worst reasons. But I can't remember a thing. My best friend, Posey, is dead. The police think it was a tragic accident. I know she was murdered. There's only one thing stopping me from dying of shame. I need to find a killer. A wickedly witty and utterly addictive novel from the author of How to Kill Men and Get Away with It. Now, this one is a lot shorter than Charlotte Gray, which was over 400, well, it was only 500 pages. This one is 320. I could probably do this in one night. So I will crack on with that one, let you know what I think, so we can return to the TBR jar once again.